As long as you don't believe your man exists, that you can meet him and you can have the kind of relationship that you want, then you can try your hardest to find him. You can search the ends of the earth, swipe endlessly, scope out every room you ever enter, strategize and effort your way through dating, and you will never meet him. Like, it is a freaking pointless struggle that ends here. If you're a successful woman in your 30s or 40s and you are exhausted by dating, scared you'll never find love, and unsure why you're still single, you are in the right place. Welcome to Find Love with Emily. I'm Emily Bucknell, and I am not here to give you more of the same old dating advice, tell you to try harder, swipe more, fix yourself, or wait for your luck to change, because you already know that none of that works. This is where we look below the surface at how love really happens, the one rule it always follows, and the reason dating has felt so hard for so long. Because when you see that, dating finally makes sense and love becomes possible again, even if it's been years since you've been on a decent date. So let's get into today's episode. So if dating has turned you into someone who's scanning every room you're in for the single men, endlessly swiping on the apps, religiously checking your horoscope or speaking to a psychic because you can't see how you're ever going to meet the kind of man that you see yourself with, this episode is for you. Because that is the question, right? Where are all the kind, genuine, consistent, loving, available men who want a relationship, like in real life and on the apps? Because if you want love, you kind of need the man, right? So finding love would feel a whole lot easier, wouldn't it, if there were better or even like some options? And I know that you have been looking. Like all my Attract Your Man students before they find me, I bet you have been looking for years. I remember myself being on the lookout for single men anytime I was out and about, like the grocery store, on a run, at the gym, at work, like constantly scoping out men and then trying to figure out whether or not they were in a relationship. On nights out with friends, I was never fully relaxed or fully with them. I was always like, oh, look at that guy over there. No ring on his finger over there. And you've probably done your time too, swiping on the apps, going to single events, asking friends to set you up. So yeah, from what you've experienced, it feels normal to assume that there aren't any decent men left. All the kind, genuine, commitment-ready men have been snapped up. So the men left are all the awful men that you don't actually want. That man drought thing when you're over 30 is something that you hear everywhere. I even remember as a kid, my grandma saying something like, when you're over 30, all the good men get married. So you have to wait till some of them get divorced and then become a second wife. And I remember saying this at a free training that I ran a couple of years ago. And the amount of people who were like, oh my God, I thought that too. But it's worth asking the question, is this really true? And a bigger question just might be, is it worthwhile or is it helpful for you to believe this? Remembering that what you choose to believe is what you write into your life. Before we continue, I want to clear up a few things I hear all the time from women who say that they can't find a decent, available man anywhere. This has absolutely nothing to do with a man drought, how old you are, or where you live. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you might work in a female-dominated industry or any of those life circumstances that you have that mean that you don't meet new men very often. And it has nothing to do with the fact that you think that the men you meet on the apps are only there for hookups. We have to get back to what love is. Like only the most powerful force in the universe. It is limitless. Love is not limited by where you live, where you work, who you work with, what dating app you happen to use, or how old you are. I have had a few Attract Your Man students that I know of find love living in the tiniest towns where they know every man who lives there. I've had Attract Your Man students find love during things like COVID, when getting out there and meeting new people wasn't even possible. I promise you, love can overcome every single reason you're giving yourself right now that love cannot happen. Because love is unlimited. It is us humans who place limitations on love by saying things like, it's because I live wherever where there's a man drought. It's because I work in a female-dominated industry. It's because I'm over 40. It's because all the single men left suck. It's because dating apps suck. The limits that you're putting on love, they've got to go if you want to find love. So let's talk about the men that you attract now. And this also applies if you're not meeting any men at all. You may not want to hear this, but it's so important that you do. The men you meet or don't meet, they aren't random. Going back to the one rule, love follows love. The love that you experience or don't, and the men that you attract or don't, are simply a reflection of the limitations you've unknowingly placed on love. So when you say something like, all the single men left suck, then love says, okay, I'll make sure you only meet the men who suck. Or you say something like, I never meet men in real life. So love says, okay, I'll make sure you never meet men in real life. And when you're focused more on what you don't like about the men that you meet, rather than focusing on the kind of man you do want to meet, then love looks at where your focus is going and gives you more of that, gives you more men that you don't want. That is how love works. And I promise you, love is not going to prove you wrong by unexpectedly delivering you the man of your dreams one day. It's not. It is up to you to change those limiting beliefs you have about love, about men, and what's possible for you. So you're back to believing that love is truly unlimited. You know, that even though you live in a town with like 30 people and all of them are women, that your man will have a way of crossing paths with you. Because then love will actually make that happen and you will cross paths with the man of your absolute freaking dreams. I want to make sure this is insanely clear. Like, the reason you're not meeting decent, available men is not because these men don't exist. It's not because you're looking in the wrong places. It's not because you're unlucky or like timing's off. And it's not where you live or that you work with women. You are simply out of sync, or you're working against the way that love does. Imagine this, like the difference between bush bashing your way on a hike versus following the path. It's a hell of a lot harder when you're bush bashing. You're going to get scratched in your face. You're going to end up walking around in circles, hitting dead ends, having to retrace your steps. And you cannot tell if you're making any progress at all. Hike along the path and it's going to be so much easier. You're going to be able to see exactly where you're going. It's way less dramatic. It's easier and you're not trying half as hard. That's what it feels like when you swiping on apps, scoping out every room you're in, trying to find him, for following the one rule love does. Before we wrap this up, I want to talk about dating apps super quickly. And I'll definitely be doing a whole episode on this in the future because dating apps get so much hate, which I don't think they deserve at all. There seems to be this idea that dating apps are supposed to be like a magic bullet that finds you love. But really, a dating app is just a tool, like another way of meeting men who also exist in real life. You know, I always feel like there's this weird idea that the men on the apps only exist there. But again, the men you meet on apps are simply a reflection of the quality of men you attract. I know many women, many of my Attract Your Man students, who meet the most incredible men on the apps. The apps don't change who you meet, they just change where you meet them. So the problem isn't the dating apps, the problem is the quality of men that you attract, which changes when you follow the one rule love does, which is what I walk women through inside Attract Your Man. And it's bloody epic when it happens. Like, dating gets so much easier. You don't have to try as hard, yet you meet better men. I got a DM, and this is something that I hear quite a bit, from one of my Attract Your Man students the other day. And she was saying she was on a night out with her girlfriends for the first time in years, where she was just having fun with them. She wasn't trying to scope out the room, find the single guys, and she said it was pure freaking bliss. She's freed herself from that relentless pressure to find him, which means now she finally will. And you start noticing all the next level men that right now you don't believe exist. These men have been there the whole time, you just have not ever been able to see them. Because those unloving, limiting beliefs you have about men have been literally acting like a blindfold, making sure you only see the lack of decent, available men. When you rewire those unloving, limiting beliefs you hold to loving beliefs like kind, genuine, loyal, available men do exist and I meet them easily, that blindfold comes off and you can actually see them. You can actually see all the incredible men who have been there this whole time. When you're working with the way love does, then you're given a new way of looking at men. So men that you would have dismissed, walked straight past, swiped left on, they suddenly feel really good because they are. All those boring getting to know you conversations land differently. They're more exciting. Connections form more easily. Dating feels lighter. This isn't because men have changed at all. It's because your perception of men has changed, which is what happens when you follow the one rule love does. I always giggle with absolute glee when I get messages from my Attract Your Man students who are so shocked about the men who start showing up. Like men who are smart and funny and plan dates, who are consistent, who follow up, and are absolute goddamn gentlemen. Even here, consider what comes up when I just said that. If you had any immediate thoughts like, men like that don't exist, or that might happen for them, but it wouldn't happen for me, that's why you're not attracting the decent, available men that you see yourself with. Those thoughts are big old signposts telling us right now you hold beliefs that are in direct opposition with you ever attracting the kind of man that you want. Like those unloving, limiting beliefs have got to go if you want to change this. I've experienced this for myself. For years, I felt like there weren't any decent men left and I couldn't attract them. I was operating on beliefs that if you weren't married by 30, then good luck, thanks to my grandma. And so all I attracted were boyfriends who cheated on me, situationships, back and forth, dramatic awfulness with crap exes, and months attracting no one at all. I did the work to change those beliefs, the work that I now walk women through inside Attract Your Man. And it doesn't take long when you have the right tools. And I vividly remember driving home from golf one day and I looked at my phone and I had 5 different guys, these incredible men, all sending me messages asking me out on dates that week. And it was this big full body chill moment where I was like, holy freaking moly, that worked. And it was funny because then when I looked back on all the men who were interested in me before I did that work, it kind of shocked me because I said no to one guy because I didn't like his jacket, another because he spoke like too closely to me, and another because I didn't feel any chemistry with him. And like, we'll actually do another episode on chemistry and physical attraction, by the way, because oh my God, if you are judging men on that straight up, you're literally choosing the wrong men, but we'll save that for another day. But then I was looking back on these men without the unloving beliefs that I held at the time. And I realized that these guys would have given me exactly the kind of relationship I always wanted. Like they were the kind, decent, stable, loyal, supportive men, and they were genuinely interested in me. But I said no to every single one of them for the most ridiculous reasons. I also want to make this clear in case you're having these kinds of thoughts pop up. This is not about lowering your standards or forcing yourself to date men who just aren't it for you, because that's also not a loving thing to do and it's not going to get anybody anywhere. It's pulling back from trying to find the decent available men. Getting yourself synced up with like the most powerful force in the universe, love. Because when you free yourself from that pressure to find the right men, that's when you start to feel like yourself again. Like calm, happy, lit up, excited, passionate. And you'll attract the men who reflect that back to you instead of the men who right now reflect back your exhaustion, your frustration, your despair, your desperation, worry, and fear. When you rewire those unloving beliefs so they are loving, you'll finally be able to see the many men who do exist, who are within reach right now, who will give you everything that you've ever wanted in a relationship and are looking for someone exactly like you right now. And because you're not out there on a mission to find him anymore, you get out of the way so love can finally take over and do the heavy lifting you've been trying to do but actually cannot, and will make sure your path crosses with the right man. And that's not to say that you sit around just like twiddling your fingers and he comes knocking on your door while you're chilling on the couch watching like reruns of Schitt's Creek. But love starts to guide you through your intuition. And your intuition knows exactly what steps to take to meet your man, whether that's swiping on the apps again, going to your cousin's housewarming party, trying out that new cafe down the road with your bestie, or working up the courage to give your number to the guy at work you've always liked. Like I said, when you follow the one rule love does, dating and finding love, it becomes a completely different experience. It just flows. There's less effort and there's more return. So for the next week, I really encourage you to pay attention to how you think about love, how you think about men, how you think about dating. Because you think tens of thousands of thoughts a day, most of them on autopilot without you being fully aware, and they tell you everything you need to know about why the right man feels so hard to find. When I want to see the beliefs that I have that are stopping me from having what I want, I literally do this. Like, I set an alarm on my phone for every couple of hours for a couple of days just to remind me to do this, to stop and say, okay, what was I thinking about in the last hour? And I write these things down. Ask yourself, what have I been thinking about finding love, dating men? Write those thoughts down and then ask yourself, are you giving yourself all the reasons that you can meet the right man, or all the reasons that it's impossible? I promise you, you will find this so illuminating. Because like I said, the decent available men are there. The man that you end up with right now is waiting to meet you. And funny story, when I met my husband, one of the first things he said to me was like, where the F have you been all this time? The thing is, as long as you don't believe your man exists, that you can meet him and you can have the kind of relationship that you want, then you can try your hardest to find him. You can search the ends of the earth, swipe endlessly, scope out every room you ever enter, strategize and effort your way through dating, and you will never meet him. Like, it is a freaking pointless struggle that ends here. This is what we change inside Attract Your Men, and I guide you every step of the way. There is no time like the present to make dating, to make finding the right man, finding love so much easier. The link for Attract Your Man is in the show notes. Go check that out now. You know what to do. And until next week, love always.